Welcome to Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois. Latest archaeological, theological, astronomical, and microbiological discovery images. In this particular video, we'll be looking at the original 1976 NASA Viking frame 35A72 of a special region on Mars, Cydonian land surface area. Well, the original stone face on Mars, 41.2 degrees north, has in the 10-degree sunrise, it reveals this E8 shadow African face, a real black African face. But remember, we're talking about normal shape-headed Africans being created or transported to planet Earth from Mars. And that seems to be the story of the original Viking frame 35A72. When we look at the Mars from orbit, we see this huge Giza sphinx face, and then we see a stone Ethiopian cross-shaped building structure that has a dome of the rock octagonal building structure in Jerusalem at the roof area. So we have the orbital view of Mars before you even land on the surface. We have a Giza sphinx face and the dome of the rock octagonal building structure and an Ethiopian cross. But let's go back to the well-known Mars 1976 Viking frame 35A72, in which reveals the stone face of Cydonia. Now, when I did a recap on the 1976 Viking frame 35A72 and refiltered the land surface, I discovered an Ethiopian cross-shaped building structure. Then I discovered that there's a huge Giza sphinx 12 face. And it looks just like the Giza sphinx in North Africa, in Egypt, in front of the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramids. But what's more important is that the Cydonian land surface of Viking frame 35A72 satellite imagery reveals a globe Earth style pyramid elongated projection. And why is this so important? Because when you go to the Jerusalem, holy building of King David and Solomon, just before you walk, you got to walk up a group of steps, and then you in looking at the octagonal building structure through a gate, a series of U-shaped gates, stone U-shaped gates. So the first image you see before entering into the gate to walk upon the Jerusalem complex is dual stone white X's, one above the other. Just like in your living room, the window, you take a paintbrush and write a big white X in the upper window and the big white X in the lower window. This is the image in which every visitor that take a journey to Jerusalem, Dome and Rock octagonal building structure, this is the first image you see, dual stone white X's. Now, masons, mathematicians, everyone has this image in their head. Christians, ministers, and pastors. But no one had put two and two together. Why would the holiest building of African King David and African Solomon, King Solomon, have Mars Cydonian land surface image? Now, this is important because when we talk about Mars Cydonian land surface, Viking frame, the original 1976 Viking frame 35A72, people talk about the stone face on Mars. And that's it. Stone face on Mars. And the pyramids. But if you look down with satellite imagery on the pyramid area of Cydonia and the stone face on Mars area, you see that this stone face in the 10-degree sunrise is generating an E8 shadow African face. And I'm putting it on my video. But what's more important is that that whole area, you can draw a circle. It's so old and ancient. It's probably millions of years old. Okay, it's probably 1 billion or so years old, these images. But the 1976 Viking frame 35A72 show a Martin 2011 Dome of the Rock UFO, the same UFO that appeared over Jerusalem, Dome of the Rock structure, it was a circular UFO with 3 lights underneath and a central light. This is on the Cydonian land surface, the same 2011 UFO. But what's important is that the Cydonian land surface 2011 huge UFO has a Giza SPHINX face. Now I call it the Giza SPHINX 12. But don't get it twisted, because in the Bible now, in the 400-year-old mistranslated European King James Bible text, all we heard or read about was the lying things of the tribe of Judah, of the Judean desert. That's it. And so you say, well, what's that? Well, if you go back to the oldest city in the King James Bible, in the book of Genesis, the first book in the Bible, it's called the African continent civilization of Ham, city of Babylon, Ur, and Samaria. This is the Mesopotamian area. And so what do we see in the African continent stone? What do we see in the African continent civilization of Ham? Babylonian first cities in the Bible. Well, we have step pyramids, huge step pyramids. Now this is where the step pyramid Eden volcano projection appears on the Dome of the Rock outer wall that supports the Golden Dome. If you go to the Jerusalem outer wall, we already discovered Mars-Cydonian land surface having stone Ethiopian crosses. Now, when we go to the Jerusalem entrance to the octagonal building structure called the Dome of the Rock, we see the same dual stone white X's, one above the other. But who would have guessed that Mars, Cydonian land surface area of the Viking frame in 1976 35A72 satellite imagery of NASA was talking about the elongated, the Old Testament glowing, woolly like UFO extraterrestrials. Now these extraterrestrials appear in Cydonia, appear in Galatians 4th chapter 25th verse, where it says, Mount Sinai, where the Old Testament glowing, woolly like UFOs are landing in the Old Testament area of the King James Bible. It says Mount Sinai is in Arabia. So when I looked at Arabia in Google Maps, satellite imagery, the Alula area, I referred, the Arabians refer to it as the Mastati Mound, okay? And when you look at that mound and see it, you say, oh, that's an elongated extraterrestrial with big black oval-shaped eyes. And then in front of the elongated extraterrestrial, in the front side of the Mastati Mound, you see a triangular area, but there's a Giza SPHINX. So the aliens on Mars and Cydonian land surface 2011 UFO not only appears on Mars as an elongated land surface structure and a Giza SPHINX next to it, but when we come back to the King James Bible, we unravel the 400-year-old mistranslated European King James Bible text lines. Because there's no white bearded old man image Jehovah connected to the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. Well, how do we know